What's going on, guys? This is Matt Marinoff. My co-chair today is my good friend Vincent Harris. The young man has Harris CEO, and basically is a background software.
I don't know if it's me, Matt, but I'm getting a lot of feedback. You might want to ask the viewers if they're hearing you clearly.
You guys hear me clearly? What do you feel like what?
Yeah, it's just like coming in and out.
Everybody here? Let's see what we got. Oh shit! Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
That sounds good.
That sounds better.
Much better.
All right, cool. So let's start over again. What's going on, guys? It's Matt Marino from Real Estate Recovery Group. My guest today is Vincent Harris. He is part of a company called Hoozip.com, and it's one of the co-creators of REIRail. This is an app. This is a flagship product for the company. He's very tech savvy. He is the CEO and co-founder of Hoozip. Huge background in development technologies with computer software. His education and the information that he puts together is very robust. You can take a look at his bio that I actually put on before when I set the live up. So right now, this is actually pretty impressive, Vince. Prior to co-founding Hoozip, you worked in a financial district, and you actually put together $60 billion in private funding, investment funding.
Well, the fund was $60 billion.
Oh, okay, but you were part of it.
Yeah. My team, the deal team I was on, we put about $1 billion to work.
Right, I see that. It says here the firm you invest in excess of $1 billion from the firm's capital. So right now, you guys are in Montclair, New Jersey. You were in New York City, but originally you're from Washington, D.C., correct?
Indeed, absolutely. Born and raised.
All right.
Raised, not born.
Now, it says here that you got a BA and you got an MBA at the University of Virginia. I actually personally, I have a BS in street.
Yes.
It looks like you've been on a couple different things, Inman, TechCrunch, and U.S. News, correct?
Yeah, we've had a little bit of coverage, and actually just a couple of weeks ago we were on CNBC, so that was pretty cool.
Nice. Vince, the reason why I want to have you on today is because we've been running parallel for a while. We have multiple mutual friends in the real estate industry, in the realm. And the purpose of doing the 12 o'clock show is to have people on of interest like yourself that's providing value, education. We don't do selling at 12. We like to let people know what's going on as far as the latest and the greatest, and or what's been out in the general public that people might have missed. So Vince, maybe tell everybody a little bit about the company itself, and then we could talk about the flagship product.
Yeah, and I'm with you, man. We can talk about the product. We don't really have to. I really did just want to come on here to chat with you and with your viewers. You know, I watch your show all the time, and the guests that you have on here, it's always high value content. And I just wanted to shoot the shit with you. You know what I mean? Talk about them. I can curse, can't I?
Yeah, this is not a family show.
Okay, all right, fantastic. So yeah, like I don't really care if we talk about the product at all. But in terms of again, why I want to come on here and maybe some things that we can go into is like, I think that we're in such a weird moment, right? Not just, COVID and socially, but just what's happening in the markets, right? Like none of us have ever really seen this before.
No.
We've seen kind of versions of it. And you and I, we had a long call like early in the thick of this thing when it really was looking scary.
Yes.
And we were just talking about how this thing could end up turning out. And I just like doing these with smart people. And so I've been trying every week to, whether it's public like this or just privately reaching out to people who are in this business,
right,
to get their thoughts, man. So I'm happy to tell you what we're seeing in our market, or I'd love to hear from you, man. Like you're closer to it maybe than anybody. You're kind of the tip of the spear. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what are you seeing out there right now in the environment that we're in?
So the thing that's what we're seeing is that, and I think a lot of your viewers are pretty savvy, and they may know this too, is COVID, while horrible and terribly impactful to lots of people, the truth is the people that were most hurt were by and large not house buyers anyway, right? And so all the doom and gloom really hasn't affected the housing market.
Right.
Like in the earliest days of it, yeah, it was scary and you saw things slow down. And I even lost a deal myself because the seller got cold feet. But for the most part, the volume hasn't dried up. Houses are still selling. Some of them are selling for over ask. We're seeing bidding wars on some stuff. I'm in Montclair, like you said, so I'm in that halo around Manhattan. And so a lot of folks are trying to get the hell out of Manhattan. And so we're seeing, here's one thing I would share with your folks if they're not aware. There is a thesis that started to arise maybe 2 months ago. A lot of the big institutional shops, seeing how this thing was playing out, and they had a thesis around suburbs. And so I talked to some of the guys like at the shops where I used to work, and they were saying, we are going really, really hard, raising money, putting money to work in suburbs, in those halos.
Right.
Around big metropolises. And so that's what we're seeing, man. We're seeing the volume really hasn't slowed down. The suburbs are sexy again. And, we should be cautiously optimistic about the housing market specifically.
So I'm going to give you the doom and gloom part.
Let's do it.
So basically, from an investor / loss mitigation company, as we're set up, going over or thinking about what I wanted to do when I set my company up, I always have to think ahead 5-10 years. So right now I'm already thinking 5-10 years ahead of where I am right now. So right now, last year we did a short sale boot camp expo in New Jersey. And it was my first one that I ever did. And we were predicting 2020, 2021 was going to be a correction in the industry. People somewhat agreed with me. They felt like, hey, the market's still strong. It's always going to, it's going to keep being strong. So it's almost like a trifecta effect that, in my opinion, what's going on. 2008, 2007, 2008, there is still scratch and dent garbage out there, loans and or people that were in modification programs. Then there's that are successful. Then in 2013, 2014, they had a massive drop in loan modifications failing. And then, you have the shadow inventory that's really out there, along with what's going on with COVID. COVID is going to be the next producer of the distressed pre-foreclosure market. And here's why. First off, when COVID hit, people were so impacted by it. They were so scared, terrified of the virus itself, calling it the next bubonic plague or the latest and greatest infection that's going to take out the United States. So people were cautious, and they were, basically, I think people went into shutdown for about 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
Then they realized that, they could still operate, but they have to operate cautiously. Anybody that is in the real estate world that is not using technology to its fullest, and or not working with information regarding data, which we're going to cover, is, in my opinion, going to end up being a dinosaur.
Yeah.
When virtual world came out a couple of years ago, and they were making it so easy for individuals to be able to manipulate and show 3D images of properties, a lot of people shied away from it because of technology, and or they were like a trick pony, a one-man show, or a woman that wasn't a part of a group. What I've seen over the last 15 years of everybody evolving over in the industry, I see a lot of older real estate people starting to decline in database and or trying to merge with younger individuals or people that are tech savvy because they don't want to lose out in the real estate world. So with all that said, because of COVID, people still need to buy houses.
Right.
People still need to rent.
Yeah.
People still need to have some type of comfort of, you know, are we going to stay in our house? So we're going to be a first-time home buyer. We're going to be a move-up buyer. We're going to be a downsized buyer, or are we going to be a transplant from one area moving into a next area? So the market itself is really inflated only because of the fact of the lack of the inventory.
That's right. Exactly.
So now by doing that, unfortunately, it's got an aroma or a smell of 2005, where the market values raising the bar.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, there's no secret. I do short sales. I work with multiple different real estate agents. I also work with my wife. My wife reasonably priced a property that, in my opinion, was fairly priced. Maybe it would have gone up like, you know, maybe $30,000, $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
But people are paying $100,000 more.
That's right.
For this property because they're so panicked
Mm-hmm.
of losing the opportunity. It was like its own little ecosystem within that property. And we've had multiple break-ins on the property. I actually posted a video the other day on Short Sale 101, and it's terrifying. Terrifying because people feel it. Obviously, it's the supply and demand, Vince. And because of that, I think that from the doom and gloom side of it, I'm looking ahead. I'm talking, obviously, to the people inside the banks. Mm-hmm. I'm talking to the underwriters. I'm talking to the asset managers. As a whole, the company is talking with people that are decision makers on the other side. My company is just not a processing company. And I think people are slowly learning over the last 5 years the power of the rules, regulations, and guidelines, and having the correct contacts on the other side. So the banks are gearing up towards what's going to happen. And basically what's going to happen is, ever since this thing was announced with COVID-19, the people that lost their jobs weren't necessarily people that, in my opinion, you might agree or disagree. You had mentioned it from the beginning when we started this, that they might not be the demographic of who's actually going to be purchasing the property. Server, somebody that's, you know, in some type of customer service relation industry, a brick and mortar job. Those jobs are in danger right now. For the downsizing, some companies are furloughing, some companies are laying people off. Some people are trying to get people to come back to work, but because the way the government has it set up, you can get your unemployment plus, hey, you know what? We're going to kick in an extra $600 a week. Mm-hmm. People are like, why should I go back to a job? So based on the environment that we're in right now and the scare of the next wave of the coronavirus, you know, it's made myself think about what we're going to be doing for the next boot camp. And so we're actually trying to put everything in a portal system and be ready to do it virtually, which we might end up doing it anyway, based on what's going on in the environment, because everybody's so scared that because of what is going on and people are purchasing real estate at an exorbitant amount rate-wise, and the interest rates is recording lowest interest rates forever, I don't see how they're going to be able to change the interest rates. And let's talk about the stock market. The stock market is crazy. It's almost like it's an artificial world, the way everything is set up because of everything that's going on. And kudos, I know a lot of people don't like the president, but he did the right thing by stimulating the economy, helping people out because of what was going on. So I am terrified for people that don't really understand the real estate world, because right now, if you're overpaying for a property, and yeah, you might have a low interest rate, but what happens if you lose your job in 6 months? What happens if you lose your job in a year? And the practicality of something like that might happen. So when somebody says to me, Matt, short sales are dead, short sales are a thing of the past, short sales will always be around.
Yeah.
For me, my company is always going to be insulated. And I'm going to let you talk in a second. The final thing I want to say is we've always had everybody virtual for years. So we've had the virtual model working forever. So now when you see these big companies that are toying with the idea of having satellite offices and having their employees work from home because they're being productive, they're saving money. So why would they want to go back to the whole brick and mortar if they didn't have to do it? That's my take on what's going on.
Well, I mean, I agree with, nearly everything in there. And to be clear, I think that there's an awful lot of doom and gloom coming. I don't want to imply otherwise. I'm simply saying that what we have seen in the market is that after those earliest, scariest days, market did snap back. I didn't expect it, frankly. I was a little bit surprised by it, but people are still buying houses, and they are, like I said, there are bidding wars going on, especially in these areas that I'm talking about.
Right.
I think people are emotionally scarred. If you were living in Manhattan or another very dense city as Chicago or what have you, and the notion of having something like this happen again and being stuck in a small apartment with no access to outdoor space just scared the shit out of people. And so the idea of a single family house is really attractive again, even for folks who might not have been inclined to do that. So that's just what we have seen. But I definitely think that there is doom and gloom coming for a lot of the reasons that you talked about. We can't just print money forever. We can have a conversation about inflation and what happens if that actually kicks in. I'm happy to go down that rabbit hole. If we are having a second wave, it's here. It's the early stages of second wave, but it looks like it's not going to slow down anytime soon. Just the health impacts. I think there's tons of doom and gloom out there. I think that, we can have, again, a macro conversation if you care to, but I guess my point is just what we have seen is that the impact of low inventory has been more impactful, right, over the last 8-10 weeks than the prospect of the coming doom and gloom, right? We never replaced all the inventory that got taken offline during the financial crisis. So there's still a shortage. So you got that combined with the fact that the folks who were being furloughed and laid off were not buying houses anyway. And here's a stat that I saw a few weeks ago. 40% of the people who got furloughed or who were receiving benefits from the government had household incomes of 40 grand or less. 40% of people made 40 grand or less as a household. So that tells you who is being hit by this thing. Those, for the most part, that's not a house buyer, right? Certainly not in this market. Right. So that's what we have seen, but I agree with you. And I also think that the stimulus was right. I think we got to be careful with this, and Ray Dalio has done a lot of really great work on this. If folks aren't hip to Ray Dalio, go check his stuff out on YouTube or go read a couple of his books. But we can't do it forever. There's also a disincentive in the market right now, because they also said that something like a little more than half the people who are getting those benefits are actually making more than they were as a wage on their job.
Right. Well, that's what I was trying to say before. People have a hard time to actually grab and come back to work.
Yeah.
My buddy owns a diner in town, and a lot of the waiter, waitress, staff are. I mean, they're literally making more than they were before. They're not in a hurry to come back.
That's right. It's literally a disincentive. And so the White House is going to have to figure that out. I mean, it looks like they're going to need to do something more because there is second wave hitting, and a lot of these companies are going to go away for good. Like you said, a lot of those jobs are not coming back, because here's my big thing, right? Here's where I think the doom and gloom really kicks in. And I don't think we see it in the next month or two or even 3. I think we see it in 6 or 9 or 12.
Correct.
Is that COVID is bad. I do not want to minimize COVID. It is horrible. I know people who have been impacted by it, people who have actually gotten it themselves.
Right.
But the bigger impact is what it is revealing about the economy in general, right? There are companies who were just gorging themselves on super cheap money, right? If you can borrow at frickin', nearly 0% interest, then you can go after a business that even projected is going to make a 4% return because you got money for free.
Correct.
So you got a lot of businesses out there in the world that really never should have been started, right? Correct. Because they were able to like sort of inflate themselves on this bogus, really cheap debt. And so as the tide comes out and we see who's swimming naked, these companies, they're going to be gone for good. Right. So that's where some of the doom and gloom starts to come in. And now that does start to creep into the higher wage earner. It's not at that point just the server, right? Because the server's in trouble too, because that restaurant, that cafe may be gone. But the Ubers of the world, for God's sakes, right? The WeWorks of the world, which was a shit show for a bunch of different reasons, right? But these companies that do have white collar, sort of high skill labor, even they, right, are in trouble. And so you're going to start to see some of the doom and gloom around employment when they have to let people go because the business model just doesn't work in a regular interest rate environment where you can't get free money, right? So those are the things that scare me.
So, I guess we're going to talk about that. I want to talk more about the housing market, but I also want to talk about the difference between the 9-to-5 people and the entrepreneurs. The people that are out there that are in our realm that are in real estate, they're not treating it as being an entrepreneur. The majority of them have a 9-to-5 mentality. And when I say in our realm, I'm talking about real estate agents because real estate agents have, a shiny syndrome where they watch these HGTV shows, these rehab shows, and everything happens within a half hour. They went out with 3 properties, you want to build another house, you go back commercial break, 3.5 minutes later, boom, they're already ripping into the house there and they're renovating it. They're doing the demo. It's like 16 minutes later, they're putting the house back together. That's not reality. And when people say to me like, yo, you're always putting down real estate agents. I'm not putting down real estate agents. I'm educating and explaining to real estate agents that when you are in this type of area of real estate and you're a real estate agent, you're on call. I mean, if the age of the beeper was still around, agents would be wearing beepers, just like doctors. I get phone calls. My phone rings at 11:30 at night. My wife's like, "Is that your girlfriend?" It's like, I'm getting phone calls from California. So we're getting calls all over the place. And I am legitimately like an on-call doctor because of the housing market being so out of control and homeowners not knowing what to do and almost flipping out because they're so terrified.
Yeah.
I'm talking about where the government is not talking about people that were late on their mortgages prior. So let's talk about, the forbearance and the deferment. So we talk about the forbearance and the deferment. Yeah.
Well, before you do that, because I think you make a really great point about agents. I just want to stay there for a quick second. I have also been accused of, not being nice to realtors, right? And it's not that I don't like or even love realtors. I think there are some amazing realtors out there. I know a bunch of them. I network with a bunch of them. The woman who sold us our house was amazing. But most of them, like you said, have a 9-to-5 mentality, right? So they're not go-getters. They're not going the extra mile. And I think that those folks are also in danger, right? They're in danger of becoming order takers because while they are having this 9-to-5 mentality and not going the extra mile, you got the iBuyers who have trained people, right, to buy a house nearly without realtor involvement. There are some really clever, sophisticated ones who have figured out how to work with the iBuyers, and I think they're going to survive and do quite well.
Right.
But I think what you're going to see is realtors kind of get bifurcated into 2 tiers. You're going to have the folks that you and I get accused of making fun of, right? That's that realtor who makes on average $45,000 a year in this country and, slaps a house on the MLS and thinks that they've done something right. They're not on call like you in the middle of the night, and they're going to be order takers, and they're going to see their commissions get compressed. And then you're going to have another tier of realtor who figures out how to work with the iBuyers, how to use technology, how to, go the extra mile for their client. And they're going to see their margins do just fine, maybe even expand. So I think you're right to point that out. That's going to be a huge shift coming out of this whole thing. It's not really COVID driven per se, but I just think it's another macro effect that's going to come out of what we're seeing in the housing market generally.
So, you're talking about that. I pulled up an email because I wanted to verify it. So I just popped up on the screen. Here's a short sale for sale by owner on the MLS. Now let's think about that. This is a short sale.
Yeah.
That's a for sale by owner.
Right.
On an MLS.
Right.
What the heck? And the thing is that there was an investor. We actually, this is one of our students that had reached out to Leah and me and asked for help on it. And Leah and this investor literally had to fire the real estate agent.
Wow.
Because the agent had taken a for sale by owner for a fee and put them on the MLS. So, okay. Well, now people want to see the property. So they're calling the homeowner to see the homeowner see the property. Homeowner doesn't know what to do. Reach back to the real estate agent. Every time that something needed to be done, the homeowner had to pay the agent a fee of like $90 to change verbiage. It takes 3 minutes to make you shaking your head already because it's garbage.
Yeah.
$90. It added up so much. I think the initial fee was $399. By the time the agent was actually literally fired, I think they had made about almost $1,500. And the reason being is because the agent wanted nothing to do with negotiating the short sale. They were just putting the property on the MLS.
Right.
But the homeowner didn't know because they didn't think to ask. And the agent that took the property that put it on the MLS just said, hey, you know what? Don't worry about selling the property for a sale by owner. I'm going to help you sell the property. Don't worry about my real estate commission because the bank's going to pay me. So think about the opportunity that agent lost on, which I believe was the tune of $14,000 possibly in real estate commission, all because of lack of education, which upsets me, and I know it does you, and there's a lot of other people also as well. Whereas, again, not to knock real estate agents, but if you're not going to get a CT credit, if they're not going to get some type of credit for it, right? They don't want to take the class.
That's right.
But this real estate agent almost cost this homeowner going into foreclosure. And if the investor didn't reach out to us, and mind you, this is somebody who's been trained by my company to search out and found this little gem, negotiated the property like my company, but they're paying us for our mentorship.
Right.
And she's ecstatic because the homeowner was helped. She actually felt the power. She was empowered by being on the phone call with Leah and basically saying to the agent, you're fired.
Yeah.
You're garbage because you have zero interest in the seller in this situation. That's why I say it's forced sale by owner or a short sale on the MLS. What the heck? Makes sense. It all comes down to lack of education and understanding. And that I can't always blame the real estate agent for. I blame the brokers because the brokers don't see the opportunities in the information that we talk about.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Are you seeing any improvement though? Like, are you seeing agents kind of get hip to the fact that just having MLS access isn't enough anymore, or are they still just kind of complacent for the most part?
I think that, look, when somebody understands how, are you talking about short sales in general, or are you talking about actual using the MLS?
No, short sales. Like, are they, like, I think that every agent should take your course or one like it. Like, they need to know these things, because they're missing opportunities. They're giving people bad advice, more importantly. Right. Are you seeing more agents get hip to that and get this kind of training, your kind of training?
Look, at the end of the day, you know what's scary? It all comes down to price and it comes down to the value. So the value proposition and the price. So I say to people, look, depending on what class is available that's out there, everybody wants a coupon code. There's a coupon, the professional coupon shoppers out there looking for a coupon code, and or they're looking for a free pass. There's no value in that. And if you're not taking it serious and you have some type of stake at all in it, then you're not going to see the value in it. So what we're doing is, and I made a decision actually a couple of days ago, so I don't mind saying it. We are going to build a portal regardless of whether we actually do our live Shortstop Bootcamp Expo. And here's the reason why. There is so much information that needs to be absorbed by people. And I think that people need almost like an online portal / log where they can go back if they have to and research. So what I'm going to do, I believe I'm going to be able to single-handedly change the distressed real estate world by building portals of interest. And if somebody sees something that they want to purchase to find out that content, they buy it. So they don't have to pay for, the whole mentorship. Right. They don't have to pay for the workshop if they don't want to. They don't have to pay for the boot camp, the reboot, any type of other classes. Everything's going to be right there at their fingertips. And it could be a la carte. And if somebody wants to buy, 3 classes, I'll only get like the 4th or 5th at a different discount or whatever it is, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to do that on the advice of not doing it for professionals that are saying, hey, you work so hard in this industry to make a name for yourself and all the content that you have, why are you willing to give it away at a cheaper price? I don't look at it that way. Because for me, if I can educate somebody to understand the value of what my company offers as Real Estate Recovery Group, there's a reason why I named the company Real Estate Recovery Group.
Yeah, right.
I mean, to me, I think it's a catchy name, and we're helping individuals nationwide. The beta testing is gone. So when people are like, hey, let me know when I can get access, to the portal. I'm interested. I'll take a look around and I give you my advice. No, I'm not looking for somebody to give me advice on my content, because my content is based off of all the years of having the relationships with the other side of the bank. And I see what's out there when people offer. They're not walking people through the steps correctly.
Yeah.
And I feel like if you give people the information, they may or not be successful. But let's face it, it's always that 1% rule. Everybody else is going to want to do it. They're going to pay for it. But there's only 1% that's actually going to be able
to do something with it
and want to do it. So I feel like if I give the information to people at a fair price, they educate themselves and they see how much is really involved in the day-to-day business, they're going to want to get educated because it's going to be at a fair price.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll always have access to Real Estate Recovery Group to say, hey, you know what? I want to work with your company. Or, what can we do together so, you can help me grow, my business.
Yeah.
I can't help everybody. Not everybody wants to be helped. Matter of fact, I got a text message this morning from somebody, and the homeowner said, spoke with my husband over the weekend, had a really long talk. Mind you, they're behind in their mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
They could get served at any time once his lift gets with the sheriff's department. She responds back with, I had a long talk over the weekend, spoke with my husband. My sister-in-law just sold her house. She's going to live in the property for a year. And exactly. And then when she's ready to move out of state, then at that point, we'll revisit as far as reaching out to you. My first thought was the woman's not going to answer the mail. Right. She's not going to give mail to her brother or the sister-in-law. And before you know it, they're going to have a sale date on the house. She's going to get a sticker on the front door. It says that there's a sheriff's sale. And it's like.
Yeah. The saddest conversation that as investors we all have, I'm sure you have seen this more than anybody.
Yeah.
is the seller who thought they had forever. And, then the wolf finally comes and, blows their house down. Right. It's like, I've been trying to help you. I've had people I've been trying to help for months, even over a year. And, they think that, oh, well, maybe I do have more time because it was supposed to happen last month and it didn't. I'll just keep pushing, kicking the can down. And then that day finally comes, and then they call you back frantic and, can you help me? I got this call. It's the saddest conversation that you ever have with a homeowner. It's like you tried to help them 3, 6, 12 months ago, but it happens every day.
So we get calls like that probably every couple of weeks. Hey, I lost my house at sheriff's sale. Is there anything we could do? I'm sorry, did we help you in the past? Right. We spoke. Can you give me your last name? Call the lead in the system, look at it. Homeowner, potential lead homeowner not responsive, not answering us back, very laid back, not willing to move ahead with real estate recovery group. The best is we got it covered. What do you have covered?
Yeah. What does that even mean?
I don't know what that means, but you know what upsets me is that in the text message, again, that was forwarded to me, what is this guy going to do? We've already tried a million different things. And his response was, the agent want to try 1,000,001. Dude, if I wasn't getting endorsed in my book, just so you know, in the book that I'm writing, I'm getting endorsements from people that I do business with. Some of these guys are big players in the industry, people that I've actually done work with. I have a massive endorsement from one of, if not, in my opinion, one of the biggest bankruptcy attorneys in the state of New Jersey. He feels so strongly about Real Estate Recovery Group in that we are the missing link between people filing bankruptcy and knowing their options. You know how huge that is? You know how that makes me feel as a guy that had an idea, a concept, and everybody said, dude, you're out of your mind. You're wasting your life. You're never going to be successful with this business model. You're always like people before profit. Homeowners need to know their options. At the end of the day, wouldn't it be easier to talk with somebody who's in trouble with their property and say, look, these are your options. And at the end of the conversation, them say, so I really need to list my house, right? I need to let go of my family home. Sometimes they just have to have that aha moment to realize that somebody really went through everything with them and said, hey, this is what you need to do. And you know, the other thing too is these people that are like, oh, I'm going to have a sister-in-law, live in the house. Well, that's great, but on whose terms? You're not talking to the bank, the bank said that the offer that they got was insufficient amount. And I said, what did you guys do to dispute it? What kind of information did you provide to say that the property value wasn't worth X? And I asked the agent to ask them, this agent is a friend of the person that's in trouble. They're not gaining anything of it, but they understand my quest to help others. So, Vince, I got to tell you, I almost feel like sometimes like I bang my head up against the wall, and no matter what I do, people still feel like, I know somebody who stayed in their house for 8 years. Or, this guy, you ever watch the show Cheers with that guy, the mailman? What was the guy's name in it?
Cliff Clavin.
Yeah, so Cliff Clavin, right? Cliff knew everything about everything.
Right.
He was a know-it-all.
Right.
So I tell people like that and or attorneys, I'm actually getting ready to tell an attorney today who's so laid back, like, listen, I think it's time that we tell the buyer to go get another attorney because you're way too laid back. Like, I'm not afraid of telling people what the truth is. And I think that people are so terrified in the environment that we're in that they're afraid to say either one, what's on their mind, or two, they're petrified that they're going to upset people. If I don't upset at least 5 people a day, in my opinion, I'm not doing my job. I'm not here to be liked.
Yeah, well, I mean, this also goes. No, I agree. I mean, I think that this is the other place that realtors could use some support. One of the things that we talk a lot about, right, with our members is because this is a very delicate conversation. you know. So I want to have a lot of compassion for the homeowner. I get where they're coming from. I get the bury your head syndrome. I get all of that. And it does take a very skilled person on the other side of the phone to get them to get their head out of the sand and to realize what's really happening to them and the stakes. That's really what it comes down to, is the stakes. Yes, you may know somebody who stayed in their house for 3 or 4 years, but what if that's not what happens with you, right? What happens tomorrow morning, the day after the sheriff knocks on your door? It takes a skilled agent, wholesaler, negotiator, whomever, to get that person to understand what's on the line. And so, you know, these are things that I don't think, again, I want to be careful to not make this about realtors and what they don't do. Just real estate professionals in general, I just feel like could all stand more training there. And so a lot of what we do is that kind of stuff, right? Is, you know, we're a technology shop, and it's amazing, and it does make you 10x more productive and all that. But the thing that I think people have come to value the most, and we hear it all the time, is the training that we give them about how to deal with people, right? The psychology, developing your EQ, kind of your emotional intelligence. Because listen, I can bombard you with leads. I can give you a pretty dashboard and, you know, make your phone ring off. I can do all that. But if you suck on the phone, and if you can't get that guy to believe that you that have their best interest at heart, and explain to them how you are offering a better solution, none of it matters.
I want to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've both been on the phones before. Yeah. I still like to get on the phone because I think it's fun. But don't you sense that when you're talking to individuals, whether it's a seller, whether it's a buyer, they're waiting for okay, what's the catch?
Yep.
What's the catch?
Absolutely.
I think that if you set the tone from the beginning and you're seasoned, you can hear it in the person's voice.
Right.
I have homeowners that are like, look, I spoke with 5 different real estate agents, but this agent was smart enough to actually have you on the phone and talk.
Right.
Almost for them. I'm literally closing deals. Yeah. I am closing transactions for real estate agents.
Yeah.
I'm at an 85% close ratio. Think I'm full of shit?
Mm-hmm.
I tell people, put me in the hot seat all the time. Nobody is going to close better than me when it comes to the distress side with the short sale. And the reason why is it's always open-ended.
Yeah.
The person understands their options. And once they understand their options, you get somebody on the telephone, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. Mm-hmm. Mr. Homeowner, has anybody even explained to you what your options are? Right. And I'll say it just like that. What are they going to say? No, I don't want to hear it. I'm not interested. It's like, oh my God. It's like they have an aha moment. It's like they see God.
Well, what you just did right there is the key to it, right? It's asking the right question. You know, and a lot of folks, I think, who haven't spent a bunch of time on the phone don't get that, the power of good questions. So like, you know, I came up on the phone. If anybody has seen that movie, that Will Smith movie, Pursuit of Happiness, where, you know, he's got a smile on dial to keep his seat at Dean Witter. I actually was at Dean Witter, which got bought by Morgan Stanley. So I was there when it was Morgan Stanley. And, you know, every 6 months, it's a 2-year, 3-year program. And every few months you get evaluated. And if you don't hit your number, you're fired. I mean, that's no exaggeration. It's like first prize, you know, is a trip to Fiji. Second place, you're fired. Right. So,
right.
And so you get real good on the phone real quick. And so I'm very sensitive to the power of the phone, the power of being good at communicating. And the word that we use all the time is trust. Right. And the way that you're conveying trust, like you just said, I think there's 2 ways to convey trust or to earn trust. One is to show competence. And for you, you're an expert. So when they put you on the phone, it is immediately clear, like this guy knows what the heck he's talking about. Right. And so there's a level of trust that immediately sort of comes to fore. The other way is to show compassion. Right. And, you know, if they believe this guy cares about me, he's not just trying to sell me or railroad me, then I also begin to develop some trust for him. But if you can be both competent and compassionate, sky's the limit. You know what I mean? And so these are the things that, again, we talk about more than clever hacks of this, that, and the other. I mean, we got plenty of those too. I mean, we have software that's the best in class, but it's this stuff. I'm telling you, this stuff is way more important. And I don't think that enough realtors are being trained on this kind of thing.
All right. Let's go into a couple of different things.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your company.
Sure.
Right. Let's talk about, why is data so important?
Well, I mean, you hit on it a little bit earlier. It's going to be the thing that separates, right, the wheat from the chaff. You pick your metaphor, right? But the guys who survive versus those that don't, because the market's becoming very, very competitive. And it's like, it's that slight edge. It's the little thing that's going to determine the guys who win. And data often is the thing that gives you the slight edge, right? So that could be, a little bit of pre-intelligence about what's going on with somebody. Do they have a divorce that's just been filed? Do they have a Liz Pen or a BK or what have you? Those are pieces of data that can give you some intel on the person, right? So like our product, for example, the way that we use data in an important way to what we're talking about, like we have a piece of technology called a deep trace. And what the deep trace is akin to a skip trace. But what happens is, let's say you're doing some marketing, right? You're a realtor.
That's on the Hoozip?
That's on REIRail.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're using REIRail and you're doing like a postcard campaign, you're a realtor and you're servicing your farm, it's 5,000, 10,000 homes or whatever, and you blanket people with this message and they start to call you back. What nobody talks about is, when the calls start to come back in, you typically don't know who the heck you're talking to, right? Your phone rings, you're out in the field, you're in your car, you dropped 1,000 voicemails or postcards 2 days ago, and somebody calls you and says, hey, I got a call, about listing my house or buying my house. What's this all about? And usually it's a really awkward 10 seconds, right? Because you're like, oh, yeah, well, maybe which house is yours? Well, now you're losing credibility, right? And so what our technology does around data is we actually intercept that call and we tell you before your phone rings, not only who it is that's calling, but where they went to school and what they do for a living. And we show you pictures of them from social media, and we'll show you their house and show you comps on their house. And so there's the data, right? It's like, now I have this data and I can begin to build that trust. In fact, the other thing that we say a lot is we call it hacking the trust equation, right? So if trust takes, you doing things and being trustworthy over time, you can kind of hack that and get there faster if you have the data to show yourself competent or to be able to convey compassion, right? To use those terms I used a moment ago. So this technology, like, that's a very tactical way that we use data. We help our users leverage data to have a better sales call, because now they're like, oh, hey, Matt, I was hoping that you would call. I was calling you about 123 Main Street, right? And if you see that, he went to Rutgers and you did too, you're going to find a way to bring that up in the conversation, right? So these little things, there are little ways that data just gives you the slight edge to know who to go after, right? And then how to talk to them when you do make contact with them. That's why it's so important.
But would you say overall, based on your experience and everything that you've been through, that you basically cracked the code and making it easier for people in the industry, that if they want to be successful, you're going to give them the tools?
I think so, man. I mean, we have data that shows a lot of our teams have seen their sales conversions. They've seen lift of sometimes up to 300%. Seriously, bro, because what happens, like Grant Cardone has this a video that's been out there forever in his 10X thing. And he talks about, the telephone is the most powerful tool in the history of business. And he's right. And then there's all this other stuff, whether it's Brian Tracy or Tony Robbins, and they talk about building rapport happens like that, right? In the first few seconds, you kind of know, like, is this guy a prick, or is this somebody that I could be friends with, or that I could even begin to trust, right? It happens that fast. And so this technology that I'm talking about, we have kind of cracked the code, right? To be able to get people over that hump, to get the benefit of the doubt, to earn the next 10 seconds. That's really what we have cracked the code on. Is like, our people just don't get hung up on as much. And that sounds simple or maybe a little bit silly, but the fact that our guys just don't get hung up on in the first 10 or 15 or 30 seconds is huge.
Right. Do you think that people that are in sales inherently don't listen to what the client wants, and that's why they're not successful?
It's the number one problem. It's the number one thing. Again, like when you were giving your example of like if you're on the phone with somebody, the first thing that you did just instinctively was you asked a question, right? Because you've been in the game and you know, like reflexively, you probably didn't even think about it. You just did it, right? Because you know you want the other person talking.
Yeah.
Right. And salespeople who are either new or over eager, they just love to hear themselves talk. You know, they think they're so clever. And they think it's that clever thing that's going to win them the sale when really they should shut up. So like one of the things that we have in the system is like, it's an audiograph so that after your calls are over, you can go back and look and it'll show you who was talking when. So it'll show the prospect's amount of time talking in a bar chart and your amount of time talking in a bar chart down here. And so if you're doing it right, the prospect is talking really about 2/3 of the time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good call. Like I can visually go through and QC my calls for my team just by the bar chart. I don't even have to listen to a second of it. If I can see that the prospect was talking 2/3 or better, I'm like, cool, that was a good call. Let's go listen to that. Right. So yes, I think that's 100% is that people don't know the power of listening and why it's so important.
So, you know, one of my close friends, I'm not going to say who they are, but major struggles on the telephone. Fearful when the phone would ring. Run the other way.
Yeah.
Like literally throw the phone in the closet. Smash it up against the wall. Like that type of person didn't want to answer the phone. But because of the environment and how the business changed what he was, he had but no choice to actually befriend and try to figure out how to cohabitate with this device to make money. And every time he wakes up or during the day or at night, he says he thinks about me. And I said, I'm a little weirded out.
That's a little creepy. I wasn't going to say it, but okay.
A little weirded out. But I'm close with the person, so I got it. But I did say, I can appreciate it. I hear all the time men and women think about me constantly. But it was weird for somebody to actually say it like that. But to hear somebody say, what would Matt do? How would Matt handle this objective? How do I get them to talk more about what their needs are, what they need to do? And that makes me smile.
Yeah.
Makes me feel good because I'm like, that's cool. I've actually touched somebody emotionally in their head, in their brain, that they're programmed. And this is a person then that one day I'll introduce you to him and I'll tell you hated it. Now he doesn't hate it as much. And he's, how do I be more like Matt? How do I get more social like Matt? So when someone says that's not me, or that's not in my DNA, or I can't be like you, or, you know, I've tried this or I've tried that. Behind me is a chart on my wall. I don't know if you can see it. It's my finger right there. And it says success or fail. And it's either success or fail. And then there's the one that's like fail, success. So I think people are programmed at an early age, I don't care who you are, that you're either going to be successful or you're not. Now, my children, both my children, my 11-year-old he's a massive gamer, like massive. And this kid goes on Fortnite and he goes into groups with hundreds of kids. And he's consistently in the top 5, if not winning. My other son is also on the computer, and he has an entrepreneurial side where he's buying stuff at okay pricing, holding it, and selling it within, 24, 48, or 72 hours later. So for me, I don't think mom and dad are doing too bad as far as showing them, look, college is a good thing. College is not for everybody. I didn't go to college.
Totally agree.
I didn't go to college, but you should always have, I'm sorry to say, but with the way the world is, you better have a plan B and C.
Yeah.
You never know what's going to happen. It's okay to have a side hustle. And maybe one day the side hustle will overlap, whatever it is that you're doing, primarily. But for me, I've been doing this for 15 years. And every single year, I love what I do. I love having to be able to help people. I love products like you have that are helping individuals being better. I guess the point I'm trying to make is that you can change, but you're going to have to want to change.
Yeah. But you know what I would say to those folks who say that to you too, and I do, when I hear that, is it's not, they say, this is just not me, I'm not a natural salesperson or whatever, I'm uncomfortable. It's not me. And so to that, I would say, that's fine. Don't be you. Be who you need to be, right, to accomplish whatever the goal is at the moment. And so there's actually, I'll give folks a book recommendation. There's a book called The Alter Ego Effect, and folks should go and check it out. And it's about people who have this exact issue. And the author talks about how athletes and speakers and you name it have for ages done this thing called creating an alter ego. And they literally have a different version of themselves in their head. And when they need to, they flip on that person, right? Because maybe they are naturally shy and introverted and what have you. But to get where they need to be, they got to flip on the rock star, outgoing, super extrovert, what have you. And so sometimes it's a physical, maybe it's a bracelet. It's something that's a trigger to their brain. They know when they put that on, it's like Clark Kent and Superman, same thing. Countless athletes do this. Some of them pop themselves with a rubber band before they walk onto the court. Some of them, tuck, a card of their favorite, military person in their pads before they step onto the field. Lots of these guys have tricks like this, and it helps them to engage that alter ego, and they can become who they need to be for the appointed time and the appointed task. So you don't have to be a natural. I think, Matt, you do have a natural sort of social thing and, gift of gab and like talking to people, I think does come naturally to you. But even if you don't have that naturally, you can still get the benefits of those skills by adopting an alter ego and become who you need to be when you need to become that person. It's totally doable.
I agree. So this format is going to be cut up. It's going to be used probably as a podcast.
Okay.
In the next, hopefully, 2 or 3 months. So that part's going to get edited out of the podcast. But so, guys, my guest today, Vincent. If you want to reach out to Vince directly, you can reach him at 713-320-2613. Again, his direct number is 713-320-2613. The website that he has is hoozip.com, hoozip.com, or you can email him at vince@hoozip.com. His hashtags are hashtag REIRail or REI-skip. So it's REI-rail or REI-skip.
And both of those have a companion website. You can go to REIRail.com or REIskip.com to see our products if you want to.
Look, at the end of the day, man, the types of services that you provide, and there's other people out there in the industry that offer these amazing products. For somebody that's getting into the industry now, just as they're a real estate agent, they want to understand the investment side. Or the investment side, they're going to cross over and they want to maybe do more mainstream real estate. What would you say to somebody as an individual who's looking to make some type of crossover?
I would say, and again, you made this point too early on when we were talking about realtors, but whether it's realtors or investors, just get educated. as I said, you know, a lot of what we talk about in our platform is the education piece, but I'm also very clear, especially when folks are just starting out, you don't need my product. You don't need REIRail to be successful. In fact, if you're just starting out, we often tell folks, maybe you should wait until, you know, like this is a big, serious piece of technology, and we want you to get the most out of it. So go get educated. There's a bunch of free resources out there. Subscribe to the great YouTube channels of the coaches, you know, the Max Maxwells of the world, and, you know, tune in to guys like Matt who are going to teach you the intricacies of short sales and distressed deals and things like that. Like, get educated, because number one, it's going to help you figure out what part of the market you want to play in, right? And then go get the tools, right? Now, when it's time to level up and bring out the big guns, you know where to point the gun. So that's what I would say to people.
I think regardless of what's going on in the world, what's going on in somebody's life, people need to realize that no matter what's going on in their little space of the world, whether they're at home, whether they're in the apartment, whether they're in their parents' house, whether they're sleeping on somebody's couch, whether they're in a hotel waiting for a house to be ready, or maybe they're borderline homeless, things can always be better than where they're at. And I think that most people are willing to basically, you know, status quo, stay where they're at. There's many people in the world. I mean, I have a huge respect for my brother. My brother works 9-to-5 job. Me personally, I would die a slow death at a 9-to-5. And he's okay with working a 40-hour work week. I personally would rather work 60 to 70 hours a week and work it the way I want. Whereas maybe I'll do a couple hours in the morning. Maybe I'll work through the night one night, take a nap, get up at 11 o'clock, and pound it out the rest of the day. I don't have, like, if I was to go fill out a job application, they're like, yeah, man, you can hire you. You don't have any job skills. You don't have any skill set,
right.
You know? So I think you have to be a specific person to do what we do in the industry that we're in. And I think that people need to stop and really listen to some of the motivators that are out there in the industry, or just Google, you know, anybody who's out there who's listening to this on the recast, or if you're listening to this on the podcast, Google Vincent Harris, see what he's been up to. Look at some of the stuff that we're putting on YouTube. Look at the information that we put in there as far as the bio. You know, we've got somebody who's a huge powerhouse influencer today who took time out to come on the live. He's only got one ticket, and it's one life, and the number is 40. No, I'm kidding.
It says limit one life, limit one per person, make it count.
That's it. Guys want to reach out to Vince Harris. Best way to reach out to him. This your cell number, or is it the office number?
That's actually my cell. That's direct to me. I mean, I'm giving that to your people because you're special and you're pretty cute. So, you know.
Yeah, big air hug. So you heard it first. Vince said, look, that's his cell number. You can text him. You can call him. If you didn't understand what today was about, as far as us being on here, it was kind of like shooting the shit a little bit, talking about real estate agents, not trying to like put them down, but trying to make them realize education is important, talking about the housing market that we're in, a little bit of the crisis with the corona. Obviously, we take that very serious, and you know where we're going to be, you know, going forward. So Vin, I'd love to have you back on.
Man.
I'm putting a group together. StreamYard now is allowing you to have up to 10 people. So I think it'd be pretty cool to have a massive powerhouse of industry leaders all at once. I'd love to have you on if you'd love to come back.
Let's do it, man. Just let me know when.
Vince Harris, everybody. Hoozip, he's got a product. His flagship product is REIRail, and you can go to the website, which is REIRail.com. Thanks so much for everybody for listening. Remember, it's not a no until you get a restraining order. Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Take care, everybody. Oh, wait a second. Vin, at the end of every single day,
yeah.
Yeah, I see what you got. I'm going to give you 8.5 because I didn't say what I normally say.
Okay.
So you jump right into it. Don't go anywhere. Hold on one sec. Take care, everybody.